Hi, I'm Jenny with Threads of Hope Counseling in Minnesota. Holidays can be stressful at the best of times, but today I'm going to talk to you about how to maintain low stress levels and take care of yourself during the holidays in a pandemic. Holidays come with their own unique stress, even though there are good things associated with them as well. Whether you're stressed about gifts, who to get for, how much to get, finances, and maybe that's a bigger stressor this year with COVID-related stressors on your finances. Maybe there's family stress. Maybe you have that crazy Aunt Mabel who always says the wrong thing. Holidays can also carry stress related to the events that you attend or maybe choose not to attend. What expectations exist around those events or even around how you engage with your family. And then for some of us, there's additional stress with holidays related to loss. So if you've lost someone, whether it's during the holiday season or not, you probably have extra stress related to remembering where they might have been or how you might have engaged with them during the holiday season. So add grief into the picture and holidays can become kind of a hot mess. During COVID, you might have some additional stressors to consider, such as fear or concerns related to traveling. What methods feel safe for you? What methods are actually available to you to travel? As well as concerns about gathering. Maybe you're reconsidering whether you're going to get together with the same people this year, whether you're going to limit the size of your gathering, who is invited, who is maybe not invited to join your gatherings. Some of your stress might be related to the traditions that exist for you around the holidays. Maybe you have to make some dramatic changes to what those traditions look like this year, and that could be very stressful as well. Lastly, there's a lot of stress right now about differences of opinions regarding how we treat COVID-19 concerns and how we're going to respond to them. So we'll talk a little bit more about some of these and how you might deal with them. My first tip for dealing with stress during a pandemic in the holidays is to clarify your priorities. Now, when you're thinking about traditions or events or things that you normally do over the holidays, ask yourself the question, is this tradition, is this event meaningful to me or meaningful enough to my family that it's worth participating in? Many of us don't take the time during the holidays to question why we do all the crazy stuff we do, why we engage in all the traditions we do, and we end up spinning our wheels and spending a lot of emotional energy on things that ultimately don't matter to us. Why do we do this? Should we do this? That might be good questions to ask yourself. When you're clarifying your priorities, it's also important to ask yourself questions about the gifts that you might be giving. Again, clarifying, do you need to give gifts to everyone on your list? Do you need to give gifts to every single coworker you know or every acquaintance? Do they need to be a certain size? And why are you putting certain pressures on yourself to give in certain ways if it's not meaningful to you? Make sure you have clear expectations, and that might also mean including family members. So if you have a big family and all of you feel stressed about the financial burden of giving gifts to each other or even the shopping burden, maybe you talk to your family and say, let's do a gift exchange instead. There's no reason you can't recreate traditions that will work better for your family, especially during a time when everyone's finances are probably a little more stressed than usual. My second tip for dealing with stress during the holidays in a pandemic is to consider factors that relate to your health and safety. The main thing is that you need to be aware of where your risks are. You need to consider the risks of any potential event or activity you want to engage in. Consider and ask yourself whether this is a worthwhile risk for you. Maybe it's meaningful enough that you want to take that risk. Maybe there are ways that you could be mindful in reducing the risk that you're facing. Consider things like wearing masks in certain settings, even if you're with family. Maybe you want to think about socially distancing in some creative way during your holiday dinner. Maybe you're a family who's always had the kids' table, and instead of just one kids' table, you essentially have everybody sitting at kids' tables in a bunch of small clusters in your household around your space, if that's possible. So get creative. There's no reason that things have to be exactly the way they have been, and there's no reason we have to sacrifice everything we love, every tradition we love, just because the world is crazy right now and there's some health risks that we need to be mindful of. Again, this is an area where it's really important to think about new traditions. Sometimes it feels more lousy to let go of pieces of traditions that you really care about, but maybe it's easier to just do something totally different than you've ever done before. So maybe you can't get together in person. You've decided it's not worth the risk for you or your family members. So how can you make that look different, not less than what you usually do? If you're going to, for example, meet through Zoom or another online platform, is there a way that you can make it extra fun and totally unique? Maybe you want to play online bingo or introduce a whole new online game to your sharing experience. Maybe you want to challenge each other to an ugly sweater contest, even within your family, that you've never done before. Try to come up with creative ideas to make this different, not less than what it's been before. My third tip for dealing with holiday stress during a pandemic is to be prepared with boundaries. Practice boundary setting. The first way that you can do that is to try your best to be prepared ahead of time. So we all know there are certain boundaries that get pushed for most of us almost any holiday. Maybe it's conversations that are uncomfortable, or inappropriate comments, or questions about who's invited and who's not invited, who's bringing gifts, what level of gifts you're bringing. All of these things could be concerns within your family, and they're things to keep in mind so that you can be practicing ahead of time how you want to set those boundaries. When you're considering boundary setting steps you might have to take, think about normal holiday stress as well as new stress that you might be dealing with in a pandemic. So maybe you want to set boundaries, for example, around conversations around COVID-related issues. Maybe you want to set the tone that we are not going to discuss these things, like how we feel about COVID in a political sense. Maybe we don't want to talk about exactly how we're mask wearing, or we don't want people to be shamed about what events they're choosing to participate in versus what they're not going to participate in. You can think about all those things and even set the tone early for your family or for yourself as to how that's going to look in your holiday. And when you figure out, some of those likely boundary issues that you might have to face, the biggest thing is to practice, role play. Take a loved family member, a good friend, your dog, and practice those conversations. Practice setting those boundaries. Practice saying things like, I know that you feel like this whole mask thing is a hoax. We disagree, and we're going to have to agree to disagree. Let's not talk anymore about it. Or, whatever it might be. Maybe you might need to set some boundaries around how much they're socially distancing based on what your comfort level is. So just think about those situations and be sure to practice those conversations. It's a lot easier to have them that way. So whatever holiday you're preparing for, whoever you're going to celebrate with, however you're going to plan to celebrate, I hope that you have a wonderful holiday.